Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lunch with Laurie. Well, I will schedule time with leaders in our industry to hear their perspectives on leadership and hopefully challenge your thinking. So today, my guest is Simon T. Bailey, who will be our closing conference keynote next month, November 17th through 19th. Now, Simon is a breakthrough strategist who goes beyond feel-good content and provides real-life deliverables that are impacting the lives, really working with thousands of organizations across 49 countries. I've heard Success Magazine call Simon one of the top 25 people that help people reach their business and life goals. And he joins the list with Oprah Winfrey and Brene Brown. So he's in very good company. And now a heads up, Simon does hail from the Disney Institute, so we may hear some mouse philosophy peeping, or maybe I should say squeaking through. So hello, Simon. Welcome to lunch.
Hi, Laurie. So good to join you for lunch.
Oh, it is our first lunch with Laurie, so I'm just so honored that you're my first guest. And I know since many people will be listening to this over their lunch break, I believe you grew up in Buffalo, New York. So if you were there now, what would be on the local lunch menu, if you like, a Buffalo staple?
Buffalo wings, of course.
They are pretty good. They're pretty good. But now you're down in Orlando. Is that you'd still be having buffalo wings, or would you change that up?
I probably would have a Caesar salad with chicken or shrimp.
A little different, a little different. But times are also changing. Now, I've had the pleasure of watching several of your videos and your leadership books, and I'm inspired by your wisdom, and really it's a practical approach to leadership that I so appreciate. So it's a great treat for me to ask you a few questions. So if you're ready, I'd love to start our lunch.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, you've used this term, find your voice. What do you mean by that?
So I received a call from a president and CEO of a 100-year-old organization, and she was asking for my advice. She had just experienced something on a board call, and the gentleman said something that marginalized her, and she said, "Let me just run this by you." And we talked about it, and she was really kind of put off. And I said, "This is a great opportunity for you to call him, give him feedback, and allow this to become a teachable moment for him." And she said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Absolutely. Because if you don't help him learn and grow, he won't know and will repeat history." Well, sure enough, she made the call and gave him the feedback, walked him through the scenario. And he was so grateful and thankful that she called him to talk to him in private to say, "Hey, here's what happened, and here's how I want you to think about it, and here was the impact." And when she called me back to say that she had followed through, I said, "You just found your voice because you had the ability to speak up, speak out, speak early, and speak often for something that you felt was not right. And because you did that, now it's hardwired in you that whenever you see something off, use your voice."
Ah, wow, that's powerful. And it's all within each of us to do that. You're making the connection, and if you like, gave her permission, and now you've set her on a trajectory. So perhaps if we go into masterclass a session and you give advice for those women who have already found their voice or will in the near future because of your support here, is how can they take this skill to the next level to really inspire, to have their voice heard, to make the kind of change they want it and inspire others?
Yeah, I received another call from a C-suite executive who used to work with me at Disney almost 25 years ago, and she went to work as an executive for a large casino outfit in Las Vegas, and now has moved on to a very prestigious NBA team in the C-suite. And she said, "It's time for me to move forward in my career. What should I do?" Well, I said, "When is your next review?" And she says, "I meet with the CEO in a few weeks. And I said, what are your questions that you're going to ask the CEO during the meeting? And she began to walk me through the questions. And I said, here's one question I think you should ask the CEO. And the question is, what is it that I can take off your plate that you don't have time to focus on? And she said, why that question? I said, because that question allows him to know that you are available to do more things in the organization. I said, that's number one. I said, number two, have you had the opportunity to get exposure to the board that owns the MBA team? And she said, no. I said, so here's something to think about. When you talk to him in your one-on-one, begin to say, here's how I would like to make a presentation before the board to let them know from where you sit in the C-suite about the tangible difference that you're making, and begin to give stories, share results. Those things go a long way. And he may not have thought about having you present to the board, but it's a huge win for you. And now you begin to establish your brand in a fresh new way. And then the third insight that I gave her, I said, think about this. Speaking is the new marketing. So how do you begin to position your brand in a whole new light? So what would it be like when virtually you join your other C-suite peers from around the MBA, and you begin to share with them specifically some things that you're working on and what's working, what are some of the learnings, what are some of the takeaways, but reach out to the chair to say you would like to be the first to go. Don't wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, would you? Raise your hand and say, yes. I said, remember, speaking is the new marketing. So now you begin to position your brand because you are paid to think on your feet or think virtually, however you show up. And the moment you can articulate a point, all of a sudden people are like, what? Where did she come from? And that's how you position yourself differently.
One of the things that I've heard, Simon, so this is right along with that kind of guidance, is that people will say to me, well, I'm sure someone else has already thought about it. Or, someone else had kind of already made that point and they don't say anything. And I said, if you show up at meetings and you say nothing, what was your value add? So I love that you got them right out of the gate. And as a CEO, I would love for someone to say, what can I take off your plate? So that was a great suggestion you gave her. All right, so now an important message that I also hear you talk about is embrace breakthrough thinking. So what is it that I can do to make sure I'm practicing breakthrough thinking, and so I can really get this understood? Is what would I expect me, if I were doing this, to be doing differently?
Okay, so I was invited by a Fortune 100 company to spend a day with them at their world headquarters. And I asked to sit in on all the presentations just so I could really have some context prior to me sharing my thoughts. One of the things I heard them say is, what would it be like? And this is a retail Fortune 500 company that everybody wants to work with. And they said, what would it be like for us to ask the suppliers who want to do business with us how we can help their business grow? It's total vujade. It's the flip, right? That's breakthrough thinking. Recently, I was invited by SAP to be the point person for their customer service experience that happened virtually with almost 100,000 people from around the world. And I had a chance to interview a manufacturer out of Baltimore that during the beginning of COVID-19, they were a whiskey manufacturer, but they received a call from a very prestigious hospital that said, hey, can you make hand sanitizer? And all of a sudden they flipped and started producing hand sanitizer. So what's the breakthrough? For a person right now that's listening to us, what is the vujade in your career, in your business, in your organization? Vujade is the ability to have the third eye, to see what others don't see. If you really think about it right now, CEOs are thinking about productivity. How do you begin to position yourself as a person who understands that productivity is critically important? And here's the breakthrough thought. I was talking with a lady by the name of Paula. Paula is an executive with a Fortune 50 company in the Midwest. And I said to her, I said, what is the most important thing that executives can do during uncertainty? And she said, Simon, here is the idea. They have to transfer security to their direct reports, to other departments, to other divisions. And I said, when you say transfer security, wherever they show up, virtually or in person, they are the voice of calm. And they have the ability to look through the windshield of tomorrow instead of the rear view mirror of yesterday. And that is the breakthrough. It's the Vuja day. It's the third eye. And I'll go more into this during the closing session, but that's just some fodder for us to think about.
All right, so no more deja vu. It's Vuja day.
Yes.
You have turned me around. Okay, all right. So if we think about the types of things you are sharing with us, I'm really intrigued about the journey that you have led to get you to this point in your life, that you have this wisdom and you're able to package it in such a way that you can help other folks. So if you feel comfortable, if you could share with us, how did you get here? Was your journey super smooth? Or did you always know this is what you wanted to be when you grow up, or were there struggles?
So I found my voice, if the truth be told, in 1999. Disney sent me over to Paris to design a leadership program for 1,000 leaders out of Barclays Bank out of London. So there I am in Paris sharing with 1,000 leaders. And I had the epiphany that, oh my goodness, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So when I got back to Orlando, Florida, where Walt Disney World is based, they decided to promote me to a sales director role. And if the truth be told, Laurie, I wasn't really planning to stay when I came back from Paris. I'm like, I think I'm out of here. And I got a call from the HR recruiter who had recruited me so many years ago. And she's just checking in. And I said, I think it might be time for me to move on because, I really don't understand the political dynamics of the organization. And she said, let me connect you with Jim and Brad. Jim at the time was senior vice president, reporting directly into the president of Walt Disney World. And Brad was a C-suite leader at the time. And she said, I need to connect you with them. And it was those two guys that literally connected with me and began to teach me the rules of engagement. They began to teach me how things really get done at Disney. And I ended up staying. And then all of a sudden, so I get promoted to become the first African-American sales director at the Disney Institute. And everyone on my team did not look like me. And so I didn't want to ask for help, because if I asked for help, oh my goodness, I hear my ancestors saying, why is the brother asking for help? So I had made up this story in my head. But what I recognized, my team really wanted me to succeed. So I needed to ask for help so that I could succeed long term.
Well, luckily you were very smart and you did ask for help, and look where, it got you. But that trip to Paris seems like that was a real turning point for you. And, talking about turning points right now, we are really in what I hope are opportune times that we can make the progress that has been so long awaited to address racial inequities. I think we've got a lot of airtime where we have grabbed a lot of organizations' attention. And what I am finding and what I'm hearing from other leaders is our leadership skills of yesterday are just not going to carry the day. We are living in a huge amount of uncertainty. So what advice can you give to leaders who are, they're needing to reset their mindset? They need to think about forward-looking thinking because they want truly to influence their team, or if they're, a C-suite, their entire company. So how do we do this, Simon?
The two twins of forward-looking thinking is empathy and authenticity. During this time, the empathetic voice has the ability to say, you know what? I may have not experienced what you've experienced in racial justice, or like me, a father that has to tell his son, if the police ever pull you over, put your hands at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Good morning, good afternoon, officer. Officer, I need to reach for my license. So you may not be able to relate to that, but at least being empathetic to understand and realize the same letters that spell the word listen spell the word silent. When I talk about authenticity, it's the ability to say, I don't know what I don't know, but I'm open to learning and doing the work. I think C-suite CEOs, if they start with that commitment, an emotional commitment, not a rational commitment, emotional commitment that says beyond putting a nice letter on the website, holding a few town halls to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, I'm willing to do the work. Dick Nunis, who was former chairman of Walt Disney Attractions, I'll never forget when I left Disney, he said to me, Simon, the higher you go, the less you know, because everything comes up through filters. People tell you what they think you want to hear instead of what you need to know. So executives, I invite you to have your finger on the pulse throughout the entire organization to find out how people are doing real time. Secondly, really look at allyship and sponsorship. I created a course with LinkedIn Learning that really talks about no matter where you are in your career, having an ally or sponsor. Let me put it to you a different way. And this is a very important point, Laurie, that I need to make. I don't speak for all Black people because everyone that looks like me does not speak for me or think for me. So what I'm going to say is very opinionated. When I look at the last 18 years of the work that I've been able to do, working with almost 1,800 organizations in 50 countries, 99% of the people that I work with don't look like me. But how my journey started in the spirit of allyship and sponsorship, someone gave me a hand up, not a hand out. Black people need a hand up, not a hand out. Now, this is what I'm saying to Black people. You need to be good in order to get the hand up. So once we have someone that's willing to open the door, give a seat at the table, send a text, make a call, leverage their influence to wear the brand t-shirt of someone else to help them move forward in the career, tremendously important. And then I think we need to also think about measuring diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not enough just to have a class. We are done with classes. Are you kidding me? If we have one more class to talk about unconscious bias, that's great. Let's actually do something that ensures that there's gender equity, gender pay, that everybody is paid equally, but people have an opportunity to really move forward in their careers. And I'll save some of my thoughts until conference.
Well, speaking about that, would you please give us just a sneak peek on what you're going to talk about at conference?
Yeah, so one of the things I think is critically important, the World Health Organization says that because of everything that we've been through in the last few months, that productivity will drop and it will impact companies and organizations and nations to the tune of $1 trillion. So when we have mental agility, I'm really inviting us to think about what clinical psychologists call practicing calm commotion. And calm commotion is something has happened, and we make up a story about what has happened. And sometimes the story becomes more powerful than what has happened. So how do we begin to carve out 15 minutes a day to get better, taking the first 5 minutes to meditate, the second 5 minutes to read or listen to something that inspires you, the third 5 minutes, according to Rabbi Harold Kushner, who wrote the book, What Matters the Most in Life, this ability to come and operate in emotional congruence. Rabbi says when you are operating in emotional congruence, everything that you think, everything that you say, everything that you feel is in alignment. Now, here's why that's important. Research says that in the last 7 months, many individuals have experienced emotional suppression because they have Zoom fatigue and they're doing all these different things. Nothing against Zoom, just a point. But we have to think about it. If I have mental agility, it's the ability to take the first 15 minutes of the day to become whole, WHOLE, within my soul, so that I have the greatest productivity that particular day. So at conference, I'm really going to begin to teach us how do we begin to look at mental agility and taking care of ourselves because we take care of everybody else. But then when we think about that from an executive and leadership standpoint, how are we being mindful of those that we serve, those that we work with? And as we look at our career, how do we recognize that there is no corporate ladder? I'm going to unpack that. So I'm going to leave you with that hook. There is a different way to think about it. All right.
Oh man, you teased me. All right. Well, I am definitely going to be at conference, and I hope everyone will be too. So thank you so much, Simon, for being my first guest on Lunch with Laurie. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, if you are like me and so impressed with Simon's wisdom, please look out for his 10, and I said yes, 10, he's very prolific, books, his online courses in LinkedIn Learning, and of course, he will be our keynote at conference. And please join me next month as the U.S. stops what they're doing to celebrate Thanksgiving. And we'll be chatting together with my next guest. So watch social media for the guest information and that date. So this has been Lunch with Laurie. I hope this nourishment refueled your leadership tank. So until next time, bon appetit.